Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Hey, what's going on? This is yours truly, Staff Sergeant Hicks, with the special edition of NCOPD Live here from Beaumont, Texas. So tonight, I want to talk to you all about, it's pretty much my Black History message to everyone. So the first question I know everyone is going to ask is that it's March the 1st. Well, of course, if anybody knows the TPSGL, I am very strategic of how I do things when I come on this camera. And I will explain to you why I'm doing a Black History message to you all on the 1st of March. We all know that Black History Month is during the month of February. And I've watched different other platforms, particularly Freestyle Every Day for Everybody. And then I can't remember the other platform. I've watched a lot of leaders go on other different platforms during the month of February to pay tribute and homage to Black History Month. So me being a professional SGL, I decided to do something a little different this year. And like I said, I stated earlier, I wanted to do my Black History message in the month of March. And like I said, at the end of the, toward the end of my dialogue that I wish to have with you all tonight, I'll explain why I decided to do that. So the first thing I want to talk about is Black History Month is very significant. And we oftentimes, when we think of Black History Month, we think of all the things that others have paved the way that have went before us. And the first question I want to ask, just in general, to those individuals is, what are you doing with the rights and liberties and the freedoms that others have fought for you at this time? What are we doing? What are we doing with the freedoms and the rights that the Dr. Martin Luther Kings and the Rosa Parks and the Malcolm X's and the Muhammad Ali's? What are we doing with the freedom and the rights that those individuals fought for and bled for us to have these rights? And the one thing I want to challenge you is that we can't sit back idly and treat certain rights and liberties that we have as Blacks or as African Americans. We can't sit by idly and just treat those rights as if they are insignificant or if they do not matter, or that one is greater than the other. Because if we realize within the African American or the Black history, there was a struggle that we came up in, or our ancestors came up in, that we didn't have certain rights. And it is my belief that when we sit idly by and let those rights, for lack of words, go to waste, I wonder what would Dr. King say now to those who let those rights just go to waste. We fought for the right for African Americans or Black individuals to have the right to vote. And this is not a lashing at anybody, but this is just my Black History message. But they fought for the right to have us to vote. They fought for the right for us to be able to go in certain places and have the same rights as our Caucasian or white or any other Americans here in the country. And sometimes I sit and I converse with other individuals of the Black race or as African Americans, and sometimes my heart goes out when I hear them say certain things as if they don't vote. And everybody, and that's another thing, you have the right to do so. But when somebody has fought for the right for you to have that particular right or that particular that right to say that I can go to the ballot box and I can cast a vote, or I can be able to walk in a certain restaurant, or I can be able to drink from certain water fountains, not I want to say irregardless, but regardless of what my color is. We can't sit by and let those rights go to waste. And then it also makes me wonder, what are we teaching our children when it comes to those rights? So also I want to highlight tonight is that during Black History Month, we highlight, for the most part, we highlight a lot of Black individuals, and that's fine. And once again, like I said, this is the TPSGL. I wanted to put a little spin on this. We highlight a lot of Black individuals that have came along and paved the way, and that's great. You know, that is great. We've had some Black African Americans that have, you know, was some inventors, that was doctors, invented the traffic light. You know, we've had African Americans do a lot of things for this country. But I need to get us to understand one particular thing, is that we need to understand that the push for Blacks or African Americans to have these specific rights also bore on the backs of Caucasian Americans. It was on the backs of Caucasian Americans during the Underground Railroad that when Harriet Tubman was trying to get slaves to freedom, and they hid out at some of these houses, those abolitionists were white. And they played a huge part to go against what was the status quo to help the cause for Blacks to be equal in this country. And throughout Black History Month celebrations, past and present, I've noticed we've always highlighted just Black Americans, or Black slaves, or Black, you know, individuals that did things back in the history. But understand this, that without those white abolitionists, with their houses alongside the passage of the Underground Railroad, think of how much harder Harriet Tubman's job would have been. And I'm not saying that there's nothing wrong with highlighting Black Americans. I'm not saying that. I'm not saying that. But there were also white Americans too back then that helped the cause for us to have said rights. And some may not get with this, message, and I understand that. I understand it. And like I said, this is just according to the TPSGL. But we have to realize, and we have to remember, that the task of Harriet Tubman would have been that much harder if it wasn't for those white Caucasian Americans that stood up to say, hey, I believe Blacks should have the same rights as us. If you pay attention, when Martin Luther King marched at the I Have a Dream speech, it wasn't all Blacks that was there. When Martin Luther King was marching through the streets of Alabama and even in Georgia, there were white individuals that were marching alongside of him in support of the cause of what his vision was. And it leads me back to the same question is what are we doing with those rights? My brother did tell me earlier that that Bernie Sanders also marched. And this is not about politics tonight, but I just want us to pause for a second and understand that it wasn't just blacks that was having dogs sicked on them. It wasn't just blacks that was being beaten by police. It wasn't just blacks that were being sprayed by water hoses. There were also some of those white Americans that believed in a vision that everybody was created equally, that stood up against the status quo to say, hey, this is right. We should be fighting for this. Did we ever think of what they went through with their own race to stand up for the rights of African Americans or the rights for those who are black? It was a sacrifice that they made to say, I'm going to go against what the status quo is saying. And if you don't believe me, I would reference you to a movie. I would reference you to a movie called The Emperor. And the reference of this movie was he was a descendant of royalty, but he was a slave on a plantation, and they ended up beating his son, and he ended up shooting one of the slave master's top guy, and he had to go on the run for his life. And I believe another one of the individuals that he linked up with, somebody told him he needed to link up with John Brown, who was another abolitionist that believed in the fight and the cause of African Americans being free. And it was a beautiful scene that just in that little group, that when they took over, oh man, what is the name of the fort? I looked at the movie about a month ago. I can't remember the name of the fort, but they took over this fort, and it was all in the message of, or it was all in conjunctions with, we're going to stand for blacks and African Americans to be free, to be equal. So I want to remind us that when we celebrate Black History Month, we have to celebrate it in its whole totality. And I know there may be some of my Black or African American individuals or friends that may say, hey, we only get 1 month out of the year. Let's just highlight just the Black people, which brings me to this, which is why I did not do my Black History message in February. Because Black history is so great that you can't just put us in 28 days. Black history is so great that we make history on a daily basis. I understand the message behind being recognized for a month, but Black history is so great that it's more than just 28 days. And don't limit your potential or your success of the history and the lineage that which you came from for just 1 month. You should strive to make Black history every day. February is great. Don't get me wrong. February is great. However, you can always make Black history outside of February. Come in, Sergeant First Class Janina Simmons. Sergeant First Class Janina Simmons, first African-American female to graduate from the Rangers course. My fellow followers, that wasn't in February. It wasn't in February. So you can always strive to make history outside of Black History Month, which is why I strategically placed to do this message outside of Black History Month. It's not anything to slight any other platforms that may have celebrated or that may have recognized Black History Month during the month of February, but I just wanted to put a twist on it to understand that Black history is so great, it can't just be tied to one month. It can't be. So I need us to understand, first and foremost, that we need to exercise the rights that those individuals fought for us to have. And we need to educate ourselves to find out what those rights actually stand for. I have a lot of people tell me, and I'm not going to say any names because their conversations are confidential to me when they speak to me. But I have a lot of individuals that I talk to that say, "Hey, you know, I don't believe that my vote counts." You're not only just voting for the president. You're not only just voting for your national leaders. Your state and local officials are as just important, or if not important, or more important than your national congressional leaders. But this is where we have to go back and educate ourselves, because somebody thought that it was important enough for you to have that right. And I'm not trying to change anybody's thought process of what they think, but just go research it. But somebody thought enough of a lineage that was going to be coming behind them that they were going to need that said right for you to have. And I implore you to go and research. Don't just take my word for it. Don't just take another person's word for it. Go and research it yourself. And find out why your vote, why that right matters to you. Because it's more than just to sit and recognize those African Americans or those Black Americans that may have did something in the past, and we recognize them in the month of February. It's more than just that. We have to seize the moment and exercise the rights that those individuals that have gone before you. I don't know about you all, but I know if I fought for a right for my child to have something, and then they turn around and they just sat on the right that I fought for them to have, I would feel some type of way as a parent that I stuck my neck out here. I went and fought. I went, as we say, I went to bat for you to have this right. And now it's basically like you don't want it. And then I also want us to remember that when we're reflecting on Black History Month, when we're remembering those who fought for us to have those rights, understand that there were some of our white Caucasian American friends who was out there that was fighting alongside of them. It wasn't just Blacks When I looked at things that was happening, over the summer, it wasn't just blacks that was out there marching for social unrest. And I get it. Some people may say, yeah, but we as black people, we get the short end of the stick all the time. It's all how you view it. Sometimes we got to change our perspective of things. I'm not telling you to ignore reality, but I'm saying even in your reality, how you look at it, if you change your perspective to look at the positive of it, it makes us for a better America. But when we see in the summer months of what happened with George Floyd and Ahmaud Arbery and Breonna Taylor and all of these other names, we came together as a people, black and white. That was history that was made. And it wasn't in the month of February. Black history is too great to just put it in 28 days. And like I said, that is why I said I would do my Black History Month, my Black History message after February. And I'm not sowing division, I'm not sowing hate, but I just need us to understand that Black history is too great to just recognize it in the month of February and just go as status quo until next February of 2020. No. Black history can happen anytime you put your feet or anytime you put your mind to something. It doesn't happen. It doesn't just happen in the month of February. And like I said, I want us to remember and reflect on those white Americans that took a stand. And they're still taking a stand today. They're still taking a stand today. When Black Americans and African Americans are out there fighting for equal rights and police brutality, they're still taking a stand to go out and march with you. That's what Black history is about. When Malcolm X converted, not converted, but when he was somewhat disbanded from the Nation of Islam, and y'all know the story. He took his trip to Mecca, and he drank from other Muslims from the same cup of other individuals that were white. And he had to change his perspective. So it hurts my heart that when we try to categorize all white people as being bad, that's what the enemy want us to do. They want to sow division between us. So my message is very clear. First and foremost, Black history is too great to put us in 1 month. Black history is not only made by just Black people or African Americans. I need us to see this. Black history is not just made by African Americans. And then I would challenge you to exercise the rights that those Black Americans, those white Americans that marched alongside of them, that was beat in the head with billy sticks or billy clubs, that had dogs sicked on them, that was that was water hose down in the middle of the street, all just so you can have a right. They didn't know who you were going to be coming behind them. Some of us weren't even thought of. But they had a dream and they had a vision. Is America perfect? No, we're not. No country is. But this is still the greatest country on the planet Earth. And when we as Americans, Black, white, Hispanic, it doesn't matter what your national origin is. It doesn't matter what your ethnicity is, your background. When we as Americans can learn to walk hand in hand, that is the true meaning of American history. Everybody has a history. Everybody does. But there's nothing like American history when we can all come together and walk hand in hand, all for the same cause. I will tell you this before I get off. It may not happen on our watch. It may happen on our children's watch. It may happen on our grandchildren's watch or our great-grandchildren. May not even happen on their watch. But you can make history right now to stand up for what you believe in. And it doesn't have to be in the month of February. You can recognize Black history at any given time that you want. And I seen a lot of comments, and I'm gonna give a shout out to Women's History Month, because y'all already know how the TPSGL feel about women's history. I'm all for women equal rights. I'm all for it. And I'm pretty sure my team is gonna construct something this month where I'm gonna come on outside of NCOPD Live and I'm gonna speak on women's history. But even then, I'll even say the same thing in relation to women history. Women history is making history all the time. Come here, Chief Joanne Bass. It wasn't in the month of March when she was selected to be the first female key senior enlisted leader of the Air Force. I got it while we highlight those months. I got it. But don't get bamboozled to only feel that you can recognize Black History Month in the month of February. Don't get bamboozled that you can only recognize Women's History Month in the month of March. We're too great. Women are too great to just put them in one month. I got it that we highlight that month. But don't be bamboozled to only think that we can recognize women's history in the month of March. Don't be bamboozled to only think that we can recognize Black history in the month of Black history in February. So I wanted to come on. I was originally supposed to do it in February. Then I thought about it. I said, you know what? We're going to do something different this year. We're going to do something different. And I want everybody to understand the message that I'm trying to push. Black history was not just born on the backs of African Americans. There was those white abolitionists that was out there that believed in the cause. Not only that, but somebody thought enough to think down the line that there's going to be a lineage that's going to come behind me that are going to need to have their voices heard in order to vote. They're going to need to have their voices heard to say that African Americans can go in and have, said jobs or whatever rights that they were fighting for. And then finally, what are you doing with the rights that others fought for you to have? That is my Black History message. Some may agree and some may disagree, but that's just according to the TPSGL as to how I think about things. And the great thing about this country is that somebody fought for the right for you to disagree with the TPSGL. Somebody fought for you to have the right that you don't have to see things from somebody else's perspective. Somebody fought for you to have that right. My plea is that we don't let those rights go to waste. So I'm about to jump off. I want to remind you all that on Wednesday, my special guest on NCOPD Live is going to be a treat. The one and only 7-year-old Josiah Sanders will be my special guest on NCOPD Live. I am ready for this one. This is going to be a treat. I'm looking forward to having him on the show, having him on the platform. He's a very, very smart and interesting young man. Very, very smart. And I'm looking forward to having him on the show. Yes, it is Women's History Month. Yes, it is. And trust me, like I said, I already know that my team is probably gonna have something lined up for me to, speak on Women's History Month, and we look forward to doing that as well. I just got to see what the schedule will look like for the month of March. We are already booked up for the month of March, but I'm pretty sure that my team is gonna come up with something for us to recognize Women's History Month. So I wish everybody to have a great evening. For those that are overseas that are just waking up, good morning. And if everything's the same, I'll be looking forward to seeing you all on Wednesday. Y'all already know the motto. If you see something wrong and you fail to do something about it, then you have just created a new standard. And at the end of the day, their issue is never with you, but their issue is with the standard. This has been yours truly, Staff Sergeant Hicks, hashtag the Professional SGL, with a special edition of my Black History message. We'll be seeing you all on Wednesday. Y'all have a good night.